Morning, everybody. Hope everybody is well. Happy Tuesday. Happy July. For those that are here live, thanks so much for being here. For those that are listening on any device at any time, we appreciate that as well. We've been finishing up this concept of an effort-driven life. Great research. There's really great research done by a woman named Carol Dweck, which I think we spoke about here. If not, we should have. Carol Dweck did some great research on what's called growth mindset, where she took students, I think we spoke about this here, where she took students, I'll just do it very quickly as a review for those that heard this already once. And if you didn't hear this yet, like Carol Dweck Mindset, you got to read it. It's like phenomenal stuff. Carol Dweck took a bunch of students, little kids, third graders, and gave them problems, puzzles to solve. And they all solved it. They were third graders, I think, and they were like second grade problems. And for half the crowd, half the kids, she said, you guys are so smart. Smart as a result. You're smart. And they accepted the compliment. They felt very good about themselves that this smart, older looking lady thought that they were smart. And for half the crowd, she said, you guys worked so hard. Efforts, results. Being smart is a designation you get at the end of something. That's a result. Working hard is the effort. So for half the crowd, she says, you guys are so smart. And for half the group, she says, you guys work so hard. Then she gave them new problems. They were in third grade. She gave them fifth grade problems. And they're struggling with these problems. And then she went back to both groups. And she said, do you guys want the first problems, the second grade problems, or do you want the second problems? Which one do you want to work on? What she found was that the group that was told that you are so smart wanted the first problems, the easier problems, because they liked feeling smart and they were complimented based on how smart they were. And if you take easier problems, you can succeed at them and be smart again. And for the other group that was complimented on working so hard, they wanted the harder problems because they were getting their enjoyment out of being complimented on how hard they worked. And the second time around, they worked much harder. What you found was these kids chose entirely different problems based on the feedback the environment gave them, whether they were results or whether they were efforts. And what she created in her research, which is like life-changing, is a concept called a growth mindset or a fixed mindset. A growth mindset is somebody who is judging their success in life by their ability to grow, not by the results, but by their efforts, by their growth. Someone who's growth oriented will take the harder problems because they know that they're going to grow a lot more in difficulty than they will in ease. Somebody who is has a fixed mindset isn't looking for that level of growth. They're looking for the results. If they come easier, then even better. These two approaches becomes the approach of how one leads their life. I was sitting with an individual the other day, a business guru, dean of a business school. Brilliant man. We were talking about this concept of the new world. And he was saying how, and we were talking about how in the old days, you had to like get your information from somewhere. So you went to like schools and you went to, universities and you sat and listened to people that had information that gave you the information. It says in the new world, the information is always available. Whatever you want to know, you basically can know. Sometimes it's harder than others. You can't get certain things, fine, but you can get pretty far. And so, whereas in yesteryear, there was a period of time in which you studied and a period of time in which you lived, so to speak, and you had experience, but you couldn't really move. If you were sitting on a factory line 45, 50 years ago, the mobility that you had to become a manager of that factory was limited. You have to go back to school to do that. You could do it through experience, but through information, where were you getting the information? From the local library? But today, you can gain almost anything. You could study anything. You can get degrees online. I was telling you the story about my neighbor during Corona, I think got 2 PhDs or 2 masters. Like, it was insane. Everybody's like watching Netflix, and this person is literally just finishing degrees online. The talent of yesteryear is gathering of information at the moment of information harvest, if you will. And that's what stays today. Even today, there's like this bias that when you're younger, that's when you change and grow. But when you're older, then you've already, what can you do? Your mobility is limited. Okay, a little bit. It's easier when you're younger, but it's just an old way of thinking. It's an old way of thinking that when I was younger, I could have made changes. But now that I'm older, whatever that means, it's somehow too late. It's somehow, as you grow in your life, it gets harder to make changes. It's like an old way of thinking. It's because if you were older and you could figure out what that means for yourself, you grew up in a world like that. You grew up in a world where the information wasn't available when you came out of college, came out of a graduate school. If you were off on your own, started your own company 40, 30, 20 years ago, it wasn't the same as it is today. And so your mentality is there are moments to gather information and moments to go out and put out information. Those days are over. The world is totally different. The period of when I gather and when I use information is not what it was. I don't live in an agricultural society vis-a-vis education. There are no seasons to harvest and seasons to plant. It doesn't work like that anymore. There was once a time where you went out and you harvested your crops and you stuck it into a farmhouse, and then you used those crops to eat throughout the winter. And there was a time in which you harvested information and you went to school for long periods of your life and you got all this data, and then you went out for a large part of your life and you used it. Those days are over. You don't have to harvest your crops. You can get carrots in the winter. You don't got to put it in your farmhouse. You don't got to put in your farmhouse your tomatoes so that you can have it in 3 months. You just can buy one thing of tomatoes and get it again in January. We don't live like that anymore, thank God. The Talmud speaks about the wealthy men, and what they use as a proof of their wealth is that certain vegetables and fruits never left their table the whole year. Because back then, if you were able to serve pineapple, if they served pineapple in Israel, I don't know, pineapple in January is because you got hooked up, because there was like, you had to get it imported and it cost a lot of money. Yeah, you were wealthy. Today, you need pineapple, you go to the store and get pineapple. The whole system has changed. Well, guess what? That's how education works. That's how information works. You could always go back to school. And school doesn't have to be, you have to sit around and take notes. The whole world is changing. This is the difference for those who are interested in the world of pedagogy versus andragogy. how you study, how you learn used to be information that you digest, remember, and then versus take it and you do it, the how-to world. And what that means is that the winners today are the people with growth mindsets. This is what we were talking about with the dean. That what you need today is to be the greatest skill you need in your life today to be successful is to be a continuous learner. That's all you need, because if you're just a continuous learner, the information will be available to you. And the information changes so quickly that what you studied 20 years ago doesn't apply now. You're constantly evolving and changing. And sometimes you're leapfrogging. I forgot, remember I saw this a while ago, there was this area in Africa where they all have like 98% cell phone usage. I forgot where it was. There are towns in Africa where they use cell phones. Like 98% of people use cell phones. There are places in America where they don't all use cell phones, believe it or not. And the reason is because people know how to use a phone. Well, maybe now it's changing, but people have phones in their houses, so they don't have to adapt. But in these areas of Africa, they didn't have phone lines. They didn't have phones attached to walls. So when they were brought technology, they adapted quicker to technology because they didn't have the old way of thinking. They didn't take it from something. There is a concept in your life in which when you study information for the first time even, you see it in a unique way. And so wherever you are in your life, you have the ability to change and to grow in a way that we've never had in the history of humanity. It's unbelievable what we can do. It's unbelievable what you can learn. If we become part of the group that says, value me based on my effort, if we're growth minded. If you're not growth minded, if you're fixed minded, if you think you're too old or it's too late, if there's a result that we didn't hit until now, and as a result, you tell yourself, that's not me, you're blocking your mind from taking advantage of the incredible period of time that we're in. We are in a period of time that nobody could have ever dreamed of. And it's changing so rapidly. It's changing so rapidly. So much is adapting and moving, and so many things are coming. Look at what just this virus has done. Forget all the negativity for a second. I was talking to someone this morning who launched his business that he could never have launched in a way that he couldn't have dreamed of 3-4 years ago. But because the virus shut the world down and he's a constant learner and a constant adapter, he changed his business to go online, then learned what the people needed, built a whole telecommuting practice, and now has something that can go international and deliver the same service online he could never have dreamed of. If he wasn't a constant learner, if he wasn't an effort growth-oriented person, he would have sat around and looked at his watch until the virus is over and said, when can we go back to normal? And gone back right now. Thank God the world's opening up. Thank God. I know there's all these variants, but thank God. I just saw that England is opening up completely in 2 weeks. Thank God, it should continue. And when you come out of this, and I had a meeting yesterday, the whole world's talking about what's next, and there's always two types. They're the growth-minded people that are like totally different people. They've leapfrogged forward into reality. And then there are those that are just like, let's go back. When the virus hit, all I did was look at my watch and go, when is it over? I want to go back. I want to go back to normal. and they're going back to normal, but the whole world has advanced. The whole world does things differently right now. There's a company that I'm connected to that had an issue with they couldn't get enough talent. They couldn't get enough talent. Their business was faltering because they were a high quality, high thinking company, and they needed a certain caliber of people, and they couldn't get where they are. Their geography didn't bring enough of these people into their rooms, and they were stuck. They leapfrogged into a world of telecommuting, remote learning, remote employees. They leapfrogged into it. And they built a whole world of people that are now remote. And now they're adapting how to fly them in every once in a while, but they've got all this talent. And they were able to figure out how to take their company and move so much of it online so that people can do. I'm talking to them yesterday. I can't believe how much they've grown. You know why? Because last April, they're like, let's do it. It's hard. I don't figure it out. Well, it's not going to be the same. And they're not walking in. And how do I get somebody who's never going to be here? And what's it going to do to my culture? What's it going to do to my ability to learn? And how are we going to supervise? Going to supervise them? It's hard stuff. It's hard stuff. But you put your head against the wall. You live in the world of effort a little bit, and you see something. And now you come out of this world and you're stronger for it. That's life. Growth or fixed. Results or effort. Yesterday, I got a phone call from one of the greatest people I know. I don't want to embarrass him. He knows what I'm talking about. He left me a voice note. It wasn't a phone call. It was to me, it's the same thing at this point, you know? A WhatsApp note and a phone call. Is there a difference in your head? At least not in my head. WhatsApp notes, right? They're like it's literally like voicemail, right? And you can talk back so quickly. And so it's like a call. He left me a note. He said the following. It made my day. He said he had to make a very difficult phone call yesterday that he made, and it didn't sound like it went that well. He didn't leave the details. And he hung up the phone, and it dawned on him that the win was when he made the phone call. Meaning the result of what the other person said wasn't the win. The win was the phone call. He made my day. He made my day. That's it. That's it. When we don't make the phone calls because we're worried about what the other person says, we're out. We're in the world of fixed results. When we pick up the phone and say, I hope and I expect and I'm going to prepare and I'm going to plan for the results to be good, but I'm growth oriented. There's growth in front of me. The win is when I engage in the challenge. When I hang up the phone with not the result I want, and still get the benefit because I know what's the real win is. That's what we're talking about here. That's it. That's it. You start getting pleasure out of life because of the effort you put into life. That's it. You're in a different league. You start engaging in challenge and saying, I want to do the harder problems because the harder problems are going to bring something out of me that I didn't know before, but you'll fail. Okay. I'd rather fail on the hard problems than succeed in the easy problems. That's it. That's it. You hit a wall and you say, what can I do to learn and figure this out and grow? I don't know. I didn't go to school for this, but you figure it out. You think Elon Musk went to school for electric cars? Did he go to school for spaceships? Did Jeff Bezos go to school for spaceships? That's not the world that we live in anymore. The world that we live in is you can always learn, you can always grow. There's always an opportunity to become smarter at something. If I pick up the phone and I make a phone call, it's difficult for me and I don't know, and I went wrong, I can hang up the phone and Google, how do I negotiate better? Google, how do I become more persuasive in myself? I can take an online course. I can read books. I can now learn something that they never taught me in school. That's it. The recognition that I could always learn. I can always grow. I can always change. The information is out there before me. And as long as I'm willing to endure the challenge of not knowing and the challenge of feeling like I'm not good enough, if you will, because I didn't know this when I was a kid and I can jump into a new scenario. The world is my oyster. What can't I learn? Can you imagine where we are? Do you know what kind of era that we're living in? It's like we're like in the greatest time of all time. Yeah, there's a lot of challenge. There's a lot of craziness out there. But that's what happens when the whole world is open. The opportunity for me and you to become totally different human beings every year. How credible that is. You know what kind of world we're living in right now? The challenge is, are we willing to be growth minded? I will talk about this. All right, everybody. Have an amazing day. Let's think about this. Am I growth minded or am I fixed minded? When do I get my enjoyment? Do I say, I'm going to learn it, I can do it, or I didn't know that? Find yourself saying, I wish I would have known that when I was younger. And then say, why? I can know it now. And now I'll approach the subject matter maybe in a much more mature perspective. And I may have gotten bad habits when I was younger, and now I can learn it in a new way. Who cares when you were younger? Got it right now. Okay, everybody, have an amazing day. With God's help, I can't wait to see you again tomorrow. Have a great day.